Alright, hostas. So I know that I said in this tutorial what I was going to do is explain a little bit more about those storyboards and scenes and how to customize transitions and everything like that. But what I want to do before that is actually talk to you about something called table views, because once we understand table views, we're going to understand how to create navigation systems a whole lot better. And table views, you've seen them all before. If you go to like your settings, there are a bunch of table views in those. So right now, just think of it like a list. All those lists you see that you can click on, those are table views. And you can actually customize them to look a lot different from one another. But you see this right here, whenever you click on it, it takes you to a new scene. You can actually have table views that don't take you to new scenes, just do anything. And again, this is just a list. You can have it with just text. You can have images on it, icons, and I know that we didn't even understand how to create them yet, but whenever we do, I want to mention this thing that confuses a lot of people. Whenever you have something that looks like this with different sections or different categories, a lot of people think that you create, for example, 3 separate table views. This entire thing is just one table view. You can just specify that, okay, this table is going to have 3 different sections. So a lot of people, whenever they're first starting out, they try to create a different table for each category, but that's not how you do it. And you guys are going to see why that is important later on. So let me just slide that down. And all right. So what I did in this example is I pretty much just made a blank project, nothing new, single view application. And if you hop over to your storyboard, since we're going to be learning about table views, we should probably add one right now. So you guys are probably like, all right, there it is right there. Table view controller, drag that. Check this out. Go ahead and type in table, and you see that we have 3 things that pop up. A table view controller, a table view, and a table view cell. Now, a table view cell is just one of the individual rows. So again, it could just be text. It could have text in a little icon like a right arrow. It could have a little image, but all of those are individual cells. So we don't want that because we don't even have a table yet. What we want is this right here, table view. So take this and drag it out and make sure that it doesn't cover your status bar or the battery on top. So just add it right around there, looking sweet. And again, we want to make sure that this appears good on every device. And I'm going to be using the iPhone 5 to test right now. And we can do this in a lot of different ways. We can add constraints like before, but the real quick and easy way is if we go to editor and then we click resolve auto layout issues, we can just use reset to suggested constraints. And then we pretty much just let Xcode guess how we want our layout right now, and we can tweak it later on. But if we run this in the simulator, then we could say, all right, looking pretty good right now. Those default ones you gave us looks like they're fine. So again, right now, if you hold down your mouse and scroll, you can see that we can indeed scroll through this table. But we have a problem. Like, this is a pretty cool app right now. We could just put it on the App Store, call it like Scrollmaster 8000. But it would probably be a little bit more useful if we added some content to the table and also allowed some functionality so that the user could click and something actually happen. So let's go ahead and figure out how to do that right now. So the way that you add data to your table is going to be different for every project that you make. You can do it in a couple different ways. The first thing that you can do is you can make an entirely new file, an entire new class, specifically for adding and updating those different table cells. But what we want to do is we just want to say, you know what, let's just use this class, the view controller, right now. So first of all, I'm going to delete all that crap. I really hate these comments. Delete that, and might as well just delete this whole function. We won't need it. Or method. All right. So hop over to your main storyboard, and we want to say that for the contents of this table, look to the view controller, look to the brains of this scene right here. So how do we do that? Well, if you highlight your table view, what you can do is you can open up your connections inspector, and that's this little symbol with the circle and the right arrow. And from here, you're looking for the outlet data source. Now this data source is saying, okay, this is the source of my data. This is all the contents of the table. So right now, it doesn't know where it's at. Is it in this file, this file, this file? Where the heck is it? Well, since we want to use this view controller as the data source, then what we can do is we can take this little button and drag it over to this yellow symbol. This yellow symbol, of course, okay, scroll down, you son of a... All right, so highlight that again. So this yellow controller, it says view controller. It pretty much resembles this file, the brains behind this scene. So now if I drag it and release it, we can see in the connections inspector, it says, okay, the data source is now in the view controller. So now I'm trying to populate my table, hop over to the view controller, and where the heck's the data? Well, that's what we have to add right now. So how do we add data once it points to the right file? Well, the first thing we have to do, we have to use a class called UI table view data source. That allows this class right here to act as a data source for a table. So whenever we did that, it gives us an error because it's saying, okay, you are using this protocol right here. So now, since you promised to act as a data source, you need to implement the proper methods. So what methods do we need to implement whenever we're acting as a data source? Well, there are three really important methods. The first one is how many sections are in your table. So we need to make a method that says, okay, for this example, we'll only use one. But if you're making something like this, then you might use three. So let's take care of that method first. And the method is called number of sections in table view. So just type in number, hit enter, and all this does is we have to return 1. All right, so that was probably the easiest thing we'll ever do. So this function again just says how many sections are in your table. Well, just 1 for right now. The other question we have to answer is how many rows are in your table. So I'm going to be making a table. Do I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 like this one? Do I have like 50 like this one? Well, it really doesn't matter for this example. I'll just like have 3 or something, because once you know how to populate one row, you're gonna learn how to populate 100. So this is actually table view, and this is gonna return an int. So again, I'm just gonna return 3 for right now. And this is pretty much saying that we're gonna make a table view and it's gonna have 3 rows. So let me add a comment. Return int how many rows. And for this one, I'll just say how many sections are in your table. So right now our table has 1 section, 1 chunk, and it has 3 rows. I'll just put like 3 people's names in them, whatever. Now the last thing we have to do, you probably could have figured out, is it's going to say, okay, now I know how big to make your table. You're going to have 1 section, 3 rows, but what are the contents of it? What do you want me to stick in those table cells? So that's what the last function is for. I'll just write like, what are the contents of each cell? Now the function for this is table view, and it's going to return UI, if I could find it, UI table view cell. So again, these are named the same function name, but this one returns a table view cell because, all right, don't have enough space right here. Actually, let me just do that. It might be a little bit, actually, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of that one. There we go. All right, looking sweet. So this one says, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build you a table. It's going to have 1 section, and it's going to have 3 rows. Now, every single time that I create a row, I'm going to call this method right here. And what this method has to do is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to return to you the contents for each one. So the first time it calls it, it might return alternative. The second time it might return alternative and punk, and the last time it might return the word classical. So with those 3 methods, it can now build a table. So now you see that most of the errors are gone. We only have this one right here because we actually need to write some code in here. So since this indeed returns a cell, let's go ahead and just make an object for that. So var cell is equal to UI table view cell. All right, thought it would auto populate a little bit faster than that, but whatever, it's cool, it's cool. All right, so we know that eventually we need to return that cell, but right now if we just ran it, we would just be returning an empty cell with nothing in it, and that's boring. So what I want to do is actually take that cell, and by default, every single cell in your table has a text label, kind of like just a basic bit of text that you can write in. And to access it, you actually just call text label, and if you throw a question mark there, it checks if it's empty or not. And the property that we want to access on it is text, and just throw anything in there like bacon. So what this is doing, again, you would never do this in a real application, but it's saying, okay, we're going to get a reference to the cell that we're supposed to return. We're just going to add the word bacon to it, and then we're going to return it. So now if I build this, check out what happens. It says, okay, I did exactly what you told me to do. I created one table view. It has 3 rows, and for each row, I called this method. And what did you want me to do? Well, you just wanted me to add the word bacon to the cell, and that's it. So we now have a table that says bacon 3 times. All right, pretty stinking. I mean, it's pretty cool, I have to admit, but it would probably be a little bit better if we learn how to use an actual data source, like a tuple or a database or something like that. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to do that. It's going to be sweet. So I'll see you guys then.